Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a concept that is probably going to shatter everything you've ever been taught about saving and investing. We're summarizing Bill Perkins' completely revolutionary book, Die with Zero. You know, if you've ever felt like the standard advice of just endlessly hoarding cash for your retirement feels a little, well, hollow, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to look at how you can get literally everything you can from your money and, way more importantly, your life. This explainer is going to challenge your current financial plan and totally upend conventional wisdom.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for challenging the status quo. We have 6 sections we're covering today: the peak utility of money, your life and experiences, the true cost of oversaving, give while you are living, time bucket your life, and finally, be bold, not foolish. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The peak utility of money. So this is where we really start questioning that whole traditional goal of just endlessly accumulating wealth. To wrap our heads around this, we kind of have to put standard financial planning right up against the Perkins philosophy. Traditionally, the goal is pretty straightforward, right? Maximize your wealth. But here's the catch. As we get older, our bank accounts might be going up, but our health is steadily declining. It honestly makes zero sense to leave a massive, giant pile of cash sitting in the bank for your 80s when your body literally can't do the things it used to do. Instead, Perkins argues we should be maximizing our life enjoyment. He introduces this concept called the peak utility of money. Basically, this is the exact time in your life when a dollar brings you the absolute optimal usefulness and joy. Think about it. At age 30, a dollar might buy you a full dollar's worth of fun. But by the time you hit 50 or 60, the physical and practical utility of that exact same dollar has dropped significantly. The main takeaway here, you've got to utilize your wealth during your optimal, healthy years.
Section 2. Your life in experiences.
The book makes this incredibly profound point that your life is, quite literally, the sum of your experiences. When it's all said and done and you look back, the richness of those daily, weekly, and once-in-a-lifetime events, that is what determines how full of a life you've led. To actually pull this off, Perkins introduces something he calls consumption smoothing. It's basically the idea of moving money from your years of abundance over to your leaner years. But here is the real twist. You absolutely should not take money away from your younger, broke self just to hand it over to your much wealthier, older self. There's this great anecdote in the book about this. Early in his career, Perkins was making about 18 grand a year, working in New York City. He lived super frugally, sacrificed a ton of fun, youthful stuff, and somehow managed to scrape together $1,000 in savings. And his boss at the time basically told him he was an idiot. Why? Because his earning power was inevitably going to go way up. Saving that $1,000 at the extreme cost of missing out on being a 20-something in New York, it was just a terrible trade-off. That money should have funded an experience that was uniquely valuable to his younger self.
And the reason those early experiences matter so much is because of what's called the memory dividend. This is how you measure the lifelong fulfillment you get just from looking back on what you've done. You see, investments don't always have to be financial. For example, investing your money in an annual family Christmas vacation, that pays out in memory dividends for the rest of your life. Or think about maybe taking a temporary pay cut so you can work fewer hours and be at home with your young kids. The memory dividends from that time are completely priceless. And the best part, they compound year after year exactly like financial interest.
Section 3. The true cost of over-saving.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the harsh mathematical reality of dying with too much money. Look, the whole point of the book is literally to die with zero. Now, that doesn't mean hitting zero before you die and ending up totally destitute. It means having as little as possible left completely unused. Why? Because money is time. If you pass away with $500,000 sitting in the bank, that is $500,000 worth of life experiences you just missed out on. Let's break down that number 10,000. Let's say your hourly earning rate was $50 an hour, and you die with $500K left over. You divide that $500K by 50, and you get 10,000. That means you spent 10,000 hours of your precious, limited life working at a job to earn money you never even touched. You needlessly wasted all those hours, and there is absolutely no way to get them back.
So that begs the question, how do you actually know when to stop saving and start spending? Well, Perkins talks about finding your net worth peak. He gives us this formula to calculate what you might need if your goal is dying with zero. It's 0.7 multiplied by your yearly cost of living multiplied by your years left to live. That 0.7 factor, that just accounts for compound interest so you don't end up oversaving. Now, I'll admit, calculating this exact peak can feel a little confusing. Like, if you run the numbers for a retirement age of 60, you might hit a target of around 1.15 million. But honestly, whether the exact math perfectly aligns with your specific interest rates or not, the underlying principle is what really matters here. We absolutely have to avoid the trap of endless accumulation.
Because if we don't avoid that trap, we fall victim to what's known as one more year syndrome. Since no number ever truly feels like it's enough, people develop this completely irrational urge to just keep working, even way after they've hit their financial goals. They fixate on this elusive magical number, like it's a mirage in the desert, and they keep telling themselves, oh, just one more year. And it traps them. It literally prevents them from actually living out those peak utility years we talked about earlier.
Section 4. Give while you are living.
Now, this section tackles the massive question everyone is probably screaming at the screen right now. But what about leaving an inheritance? Well, Perkins' answer is actually remarkably simple. Why wait? Seriously, you shouldn't wait until you die to pass on your wealth to your kids or to the charities you care about. It goes right back to that declining utility of money we discussed. Just like your ability to turn cash into enjoyable experiences drops as you age, the exact same thing happens to your kids. As your adult children get older, every single dollar you give them goes less and less far. Eventually, if they inherit your money when they're, say, in their 60s, that money might be practically useless to them for actually building their lives. We really should be giving our wealth to our kids and our favorite charities when the recipients are young enough to extract the maximum enjoyment and impact from it.
Section 5. Time bucket your life. This brings us to a super actionable strategy for actually getting out there and having those experiences. But before we look at the time buckets themselves, we've got to acknowledge this quote. Perkins states that nothing has a greater effect on your ability to enjoy experiences at any age than your health. Health is, without a doubt, far more important than money. No amount of cash can magically make up for really poor health. Because of that, making early investments in your physical well-being isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely mandatory. Spending your time and your money on your health today is what yields the greatest lifetime fulfillment tomorrow.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we should organize those healthy years. Instead of just making some generic, giant bucket list of things to do before you die, Perkins suggests dividing your life up into time buckets: current years, midlife years, and later years. You basically look at the experiences you want to have and you place them in the bucket where they actually belong. For instance, the absolute joy of morning school drop-offs, or weekend day trips to the beach with your toddlers, or visiting aging family members while your kids are still young. Those absolutely must go into the current years bucket. It really highlights just how fleeting time is. If you don't do those things in that specific time bucket, that window closes forever.
Section 6. Be bold, not foolish.
This is all about taking deliberate, intentional action while you actually still have the capacity to do so. Perkins heavily encourages taking calculated chances, especially when you're young and you've got fewer commitments tying you down. The truth is, most of the time, we miss out on these amazing, life-changing opportunities simply because of completely irrational fears. But here's the reality check. The upside of seizing a great opportunity is almost always higher than whatever risk your fear is warning you about. Time moves strictly in one direction, right? And as it passes, it just sweeps away the opportunities for certain experiences permanently. Overcoming those fears early on is what allows you to actually live your life, rather than just playing it safe and existing alongside a growing savings account.
I want to end this explainer with a really profound question drawn straight from the core ethos of Die with Zero. Are you more afraid of running out of money or wasting your life? Think about that for a sec. For most people, their single biggest fear is running out of money when they hit 80. But Perkins argues that your biggest fear really ought to be wasting your precious life and your time right now. In the end, the whole business of life is the acquisition of memories. So go out there, chase those memorable experiences, give to your kids when they can actually use the money, and remember that time only ever moves forward. I really hope this summary challenged your thinking as much as it challenged mine. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and start thinking about how you can maximize your life, not just your wealth.